we're just a couple months away from the release of the Resident Evil 4 remake. Now, to be perfectly honest, I am incredibly excited about it. I consider myself to be a Resident Evil mega fan. I've beaten the games, I get the platinum trophies, I finish every version of all the different games, I've even read the rather terrible Resident Evil book series, but I've always been curious, what's going to come next? I mean, I just feel like Resident Evil is such a freaking fantastic franchise because of the mainline games, the spin-offs, the spooky characters, the fake science. This is a 10 out of 10 saga. But I mean, seriously, what are we going to get after the Resident Evil 4 remake? Because there has been a lot of talk about bringing back Code Veronica. But let's discuss the idea of the Code Veronica remake and a fan version that got canceled, and also why I think that's a good thing. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. So here we have an article over on Kotaku sort of breaking down the drama that's currently being experienced. So what was happening is that there was a group of programmers that were working on their own version of a full-blown remake of the original Resident Evil and a rebuild of Code Veronica. Now, this is actually some gameplay that they've made for the Code Veronica remake. This is their fan project. Now, as you can tell, it's very unfinished. It's very raw. This is a demo they released, and it's pretty cool to just see what they were trying to do, because that is Code Veronica Claire Redfield. Is a mannequin on the table? That's very funny to me. Oh, look at the way it zooms in on notes and stuff. I mean, okay, so it's a fan game. It's very, very raw, but it's definitely actually Code Veronica. It's them taking, this is where the dogs pop out of the bottom and stuff. This is straight up actual Code Veronica being rebuilt by modders, hackers, by programmers who want to try and bring what they consider to be a very underrated Resident Evil game to the modern day. Well, they just got hit with a cease and desist. It seems as if Capcom themselves have legally demanded they stop development. They stop making this. In fact, what's interesting to me is that, honestly, this is a game that I would like to see. I would like to see not just a fan game. I think it would be cool to see Code Veronica officially get rebuilt. Now, part of what's crazy about this is that recently the producer on Resident Evil 4 remake said straight up to IGN, they directly said, there are no plans for Code Veronica to get a remake, at least as of now. You can see here they said no plans for a Resident Evil Code Veronica remake just yet, Capcom says. Now, the reason this kind of just strikes me as a bit off, the reason I'm slightly suspicious, is because, well, I mean, to be perfectly clear, the Resident Evil 2 remake, the Resident Evil 3 remake, and the Resident Evil 4 remake seem to be just huge, big, successful projects. It seems like, just by judging from the outside, they have made hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. These have been incredibly big, successful, lucrative endeavors by Capcom. And I think part of it comes down to the fact that, honestly, these remakes, these updated modernizations have been fantastic. Resident Evil 2 Remake has got to be one of my favorite games of all time. And it's insane to say that about a game that's practically a shot-for-shot rebuild. In fact, last night, this is totally true, last night I was playing the Resident Evil 3 Remake till about 2 a.m. on Inferno difficulty because I'm trying to get that platinum trophy next. So what is it that we're going to see after that RE4 remake? Because they have to have a roadmap. We've seen leaks before. Capcom really loves to try and plan their projects out. They like to try and plan that next 5 big major things. So obviously they can start pre-production, they can get developers ready, they can start to hire people that are going to build the worlds, the clues, the details. So I think definitely after Resident Evil 4, there's going to be a big gap, probably like a year or two of silence. And then I think we're probably going to see Resident Evil 9. I think Resident Evil 9, there's already been some rather crazy sounding leaks that make it seem like a big, cool project. And then I think after RE9, we're going to see a Code Veronica remake. Now, the reason I think this is happening is because, honestly, this cease and desist to me is a good sign. In the past, Capcom has actually taken down games when they were about to announce a remake. There's obviously the famous case of Daymare. This thing was called 1998, Daymare 1998. It was originally a full-blown remake of Resident Evil 2, and in the middle of working on it, suddenly they got a bunch of Capcom lawyers showing up and telling them to stop. And so they changed it. They took all the work they had already created and turned it into Daymare, which is still sort of like almost a different retelling of Resident Evil 2. But to me, that's interesting. That's cool because it does show that at times Capcom will crush a fan project to make sure that all the hype is focused on them. If they're actually stopping a Code Veronica remake, I think there is a very good chance that that's because internally they're beginning to figure this out. They're starting to plot and plan and think about how they could themselves do a complete rebuild of Code Veronica. Now, the developers of that Resident Evil Code Veronica fan game, I do genuinely feel bad for them. They got completely crushed. In fact, you can see this is one of the developers here, and he's not happy. He's tweeting out memes sort of roasting Capcom because they are sort of doing the Nintendo thing of crushing you for making a little teeny tiny harmless fan game. I mean, the fact that they even managed to make a demo for this game, most of the assets and stuff they were using in this were edited and modified assets from the Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes. This was basically a standalone mod. I mean, it was made as a passion project. The fact that they got taken down, I think, is a clear sign that they are doing something themselves, that Capcom wants to make sure that they own the entirety of the Code Veronica conversation. Now, part of the reason I think personally that we're going to get a Code Veronica remake is because really, what the heck could they possibly do next? After Resident Evil 4, after Resident Evil 9, are they going to do a Resident Evil 5 remake? I just don't think they're going to do something like a Resident Evil 5 remake. I mean, maybe someday, but it definitely seems like the classic tank controls, spooky jump scare, save one bullet terror of more classic Resident Evils makes for a bigger and sometimes better change when they decide to update it. So to me, I still just so much love the idea of, I think that we're probably going to get a big Code Veronica remake, and then I think they might do one last redo, like one last big remake of Resident Evil 1, just to sort of make a total fluid, perfect containment of the original Resident Evil saga. Gosh, to me personally, I still see that there is a lot of love and a surprising amount of hate for Code Veronica. Code Veronica has always sat in a very strange place because it has more modern graphics. It was in HD, but it had those classic controls. It still played like Resident Evil 2, even if it looked closer to Resident Evil 4. And I mean, personally, I enjoyed that. I liked the fact that it felt like that passing of the torch. It was the last of the super puzzle-focused, crazy, oh man, you got to figure out how to build a bow gun and find random acid rounds and stuff like that. I like the spookiness of clunky old Resident Evil. I want so badly to see specifically how Capcom wants to rebuild Code Veronica, because it is in a tough spot. Code Veronica takes place halfway in Antarctica. It takes place on a prison island. It's got naked zombies walking around and stuff like that. How do you update that? How do you rebuild a game that was, by intention, such a dark and spooky adventure? And the last major hurrah of Claire. We didn't really see Claire much after that. I want to see Code Veronica get a remake. I want to see Code Veronica personally, I want to see Code Veronica get a remake even before Resident Evil 9. I want it more than the Resident Evil 4 remake, and I'll admit it that the Resident Evil 4 remake looks freaking fantastic. I trust what Capcom is up to, but I just want to see what's coming next. What do you guys think about the idea of a Code Veronica remake? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already, and please keep dreaming. Alright, I filmed both videos today before breakfast. I'm going to go eat. I love you guys. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.